and that'll help you. And now that everything's in the system, we really are ready to rock and roll. So let's do it. So right off the bat, when you log into the admin side, have you had an opportunity to log into the admin side at all?
No.
No worries, that's okay. I'm gonna make sure you have
I don't even know if I have login information.
I'll resend it to you.
Okay.
I sent it in after our kickoff, but that was like a way long time ago. So I'll resend it to you.
That'd be great.
Of course. So this is our membership dashboard. This is what you're going to land in the second you log into the back end of your site. And so anytime you're logging into the administrative side, this is what you see. Now this area is going to give you a lot of snapshots of what's going on in the system, but it's not giving you the full story. So we're going to be able to discover more of the story of what's going on with your members, events, financials, in different areas of the site, which we're going to review together today. So in here, we have our current membership roster. This has just got your different member types, the members that are within those member types, and you'll be able to follow them through their graced and lapsed period. Now, I know you never want to lapse your members. I can't technically prevent the system from ever lapsing them, but I've created a really long grace period that I wanted to talk to you about today to see if you felt like that's what you wanted to do. I know you said you guys didn't like to lapse your members. When your members go from in their active period and when they move to their grace period, they still are able to log in. They still can take advantage of member type pricing, any discounts or whatever that they may have, any benefits that they're gaining from being in the system, they still have. But the second they go from graced to lapsed, that's when all of a sudden they're not going to be able to log into the system. The longest grace period that we can give is 31 months, which I feel like is plenty of time. That's almost 2 years.
Yeah, so I'm sure that will be fine.
Okay, cool. So they'll move from active to grace, and then they're just going to hang out in grace and for 31 months. And then if you start seeing them move into lapse, that's when I would reach out and say, hey, you've had almost 2 years to pay your dues. What's up? Do you still want to be a member? And hopefully they'll have reached out to you.
We're not going to carry anybody over for 2 years.
Okay, cool. So they'll wind up in this lapsed column, and at that time you can determine what you want to do, whether it's move them into the prospect, move them, delete them out of the system altogether. Whatever you guys want to do at that time is totally up to you. We have new members in the last 90 days. This is important because as new members are joining your association, they're going to pop right into this, this dashboard over here. That's just so that you can pinpoint who those people are a little bit quicker and engage those members frequently and quickly after they become a new member. So that's why this is a useful dashboard. Our event dashboard is pulling from event registration forms. So once you start creating event registration forms in the system, it's going to look at the date that the event is to be held on, and it's going to pull the information right into these two dashboards. So one is going to show us past events, the date that they were held on and how many people attended. Upcoming is going to show us, of course, upcoming events, the date that they will be held on and how many people have registered so far. Lastly, we have our financial dashboards. I'm going to bring out my MemberClicks test site to show you kind of how this is going to populate, because I think it'll help a little bit. So down here at the very bottom, we have our financial dashboards. Age receivables is going to show us how many outstanding invoices you have by how many days and how much money. So everything here under aged receivables is going to be either your invoices are current, meaning they're in this current area. They are 1 to 30 days past due. So you're going to see a bar populate for 1 to 30 days past due, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, and 91 plus days. The other part of this is sales over time. So this is going to show you how much money you've brought in per revenue account per month. So we'll actually be able to look at these different revenue accounts that we have, select those revenue accounts. Maybe we want to see how much money we've brought in conferences and apply that filter. And there would be obviously a spike as to whenever that conference month was. But this just is going to show you how that financial revenue account is going to change throughout the year. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Pretty easy peasy. So the next thing I want to look at is your account settings. So I'm just going to settings and account settings. You will really never need to access this area. One thing that I wanted to point out to you is you do have this account information. So this is going to show you how many profiles you have still available. The biggest thing here, though, is when you start calling into the help team, they're going to ask you for your account number. If you're like me, I have 10 million numbers I'm already remembering. So you don't have to write it down or remember it. You can always just come to this account settings area, and it's going to be right here for you.
Okay.
We have you in the Eastern time zone. Your membership year begins January 1st. Right now I'm using these member numbers and I have them turned on, but we can hide those from individuals' profiles if we want to. I have you using QuickBooks, and then any notifications are going to be coming. Anybody that responds to an email that comes from MemberClicks, that response email will come to you. So that's what this notifications area is telling us. So if this email ever changes, you can just come back into this account settings area and change that email, and that's going to redirect where those emails are going to. And then lastly, we just have some.
That's easy to change if we want to change that. The person
totally.
that gets all the emails.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then we just got some billing contact information, and that's for this account settings area. Any questions on this?
Nope.
That one's pretty easy peasy too. So now we're going to jump into financials for just a second. To access our financials, I'm going to work under the financial tab, and we have two different areas we can look at. One is invoices, one is transactions. Let's first start by taking a look at this invoices area. So as invoices are created in the system, they'll all show up on this page here. This is the invoice list. I'm going to go ahead and go back over to my MemberClicks test site just so that you can see what this is going to look like after invoices have been created. So this is what it's going to begin to look like. You can do all kinds of things to your invoices. I know one big thing that you'll be doing is applying offline payments. Since you're going to be doing membership, I think you said we're going to be doing membership dues offline since it's such a large amount of money. You don't want that much money coming out for moolah or whatever it is. So
I'm
going to show you, I'm going to show you how we can do that. Before I show you how we can do that, a couple of little tips and tricks. You can search these invoices. So since this is going to house all of the invoices ever created in the system, obviously it's going to be a lot. So if you're looking, I know one of my coworkers, Addie, has a lot of example invoices in here. You can search names, first name, last name. You can also search by organization, and you can also search by invoice number to locate the invoice that you're looking for in particular. Now we also have these buttons up here at the top that will allow us to sort. So if I'm only interested in seeing open invoices for Addie, I can select that open button, and it's narrowed down my search even more so. I can also click on any of these column headers to put these in order. So if I want to know these open invoices by oldest invoice number to newest, I can just click on that invoice header and it's going to put that in order for me. If I clicked it again, it's going to just put it in reverse order. So we can do that with any of these column headers.
So you're implying that we're not going to be using QuickBooks to invoice anymore. We're going to be using this system to invoice?
That's exactly right. And so the cool thing is QuickBooks and MemberClicks can talk to each other. And so I'm going to show you here in a second, and we may need a separate financial training down the road on the financial piece, but you'll be able to pull a transaction report and import it into QuickBooks. Invoices never have to be created in QuickBooks. They're held in here, and QuickBooks is going to be able to hold, we're going to be bringing over the debit and credit lines into QuickBooks. So it'll show the sale, and then it'll show where the sale was completed.
Yeah, I'm confident we'll need, not really, but kind of. I'm confident we'll have to have our accountant involved for another session on, financial stuff. Okay,
more commonly than not, I have 30-minute sessions with financial, whoever the financial person is. And then we also have somebody within our staff that is really an expert on doing those imports into QuickBooks. I've done a few, but if something goes awry, I don't always have the best answers in my back pocket. And so we have somebody in our company who's done a lot of these and can offer assistance through that first QuickBooks import if y'all need it.
Well, oddly, I wear many hats, and one of the hats I do wear is I do the invoicing. So that's why I was asking about the invoicing here versus QuickBooks. But an accountant, I am not. So.
Well, and it's scary. A lot of my associations feel a bit hesitant about, like, kind of like what you said. You mean we're not going to make invoices in QuickBooks anymore? But
oh no, I don't really. Honestly, I'm not. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. You go ahead.
No, I was just saying it doesn't matter to me where I do the invoices, but as long as our accountant has this all, as long as they have it set up the way they like it, I'll do invoicing anywhere as long as the two systems are talking. But I'm definitely not the person to make sure that's all set up correctly.
I totally understand. And then another cool thing with all of this is that these invoices are pretty much going to be made automatically in the system. So like when we're ready for your members to pay their dues next year or this year, our system is taking those notifications that you set up in the system or that you gave me and I set up in the system, and I'm going to be able to say, like I already put, and I'll show you in a bit, you know, we want this notification to go out 4 months before their expiration date, 3 months before their expiration date, 2 months before, 15 days, whatever it is. The system's going to do that automatically. And when it sends out that first notification, that's what creates the dues renewal invoice. So you'll never have to create dues renewal invoices again. The system's going to do it for you, which is kind of cool. Hopefully save you some time.
Yeah. But right now, QuickBooks in the system, they're not actually communicating. I mean, you guys, we haven't given you too much accounting information, correct? No.
Right. Yeah. So that's the confusion. They're not integrated, but they talk to one another. And so you'll have to actually take the information out of MemberClicks, import it into QuickBooks, and that's what allows them to work with each other. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Oh, so that someone's going to have to be doing that manually on a regular basis.
Traditionally, I probably see it about once a month.
Okay.
But
so that means MemberClicks isn't actually up to date unless Jimmy, our accountant, or someone is syncing it?
That's a good way to look at it, yeah. It's definitely a good way to look at it. But it's not QuickBooks, or it's not MemberClicks that wouldn't be up to date. It's just, I think it would be more so QuickBooks that isn't up to date because you're not capturing those invoices and payments in QuickBooks anymore. You're capturing it in MemberClicks. So then you just jump into...
MemberClicks is up to date. QuickBooks isn't up to date.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Oh, that's actually better. Okay.
Oh, perfect. Some other things that we can do in here that I think make life a little bit easier is when we get ready to send out, if somebody emails you and says, hey, I did not get my invoice, I don't know what happened to it, I can't find the email, whatever it is, all you have to do is come into this invoice list. Once again, you can search by their name, search by the invoice number, you can find that invoice, tag it, and then there's this email button right here in the left-hand corner. This is going to allow you to make sure that that's the right email address you want to send it to. You can add additional email addresses if you want to, and then you can send it. That's just going to put the invoice back to your members. Now, your members will also be able to access all their invoices through their profile on the front end of the site. So when they log into your MemberClicks site, it's going to bring up their profile, and they can actually see all their invoices. I've learned in my experience that a lot of times your members, there's a good bit of members that maybe aren't as technically savvy, so they're not going to know how to do that.
Right.
And that's where this, I think, comes in hand. We can also create PDFs for these. So if you have any members that prefer snail mail, or if you want to print them off for your records, you can just tag any invoices and create PDFs, which will then allow you to print these off. And then you can also void invoices as well. I'm going to go ahead and dive into one of these invoices. I'm going to look at this one. So I just clicked the invoice number. Now this is exactly how your invoices will look, except for, of course, it'll be your logo in the top right-hand corner. And it's going to be your association information in the left-hand corner. Everything else is going to be pretty standard, though. You have your line item description. So that's either going to pull from the member dues renewal, or it's going to pull from line items that we'll create on forms, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the forms training. Some things that I want to go ahead and talk to you about now. There is this notes section on your invoice that's going to be created through something we call an invoice template. I'm going to introduce that to you in just a second, and I'm going to show you exactly how those invoice templates are going to work in our system. And it's going to be a little bit of a piece of homework from our training today. We also have...
Did you say homework?
There's a little bit of homework. Yes, it's really just to help you get your hands dirty in the system and hopefully help you retain some of the stuff that we're going through today. But it's not too bad. It's pretty simple.
I'm teasing you.
So one of my favorite things, and I always say, if I voided an invoice or if I made a payment on an invoice, I'm going to walk away and 10 seconds later, I have no idea why I did that. So right here, you have an area for internal notes only. You can throw in some notes, you know, voided invoice because they canceled them coming to the event, you know, on this date. And then you can save that comment. It's going to show you the date that you made it on, and you'll be able to see this on the invoice moving forward, which I think is really helpful. Now, you can download this invoice, which will allow you to print it off. You can void the invoice. You can create a credit invoice. The big thing here that you're going to be using all of the time is pay invoice, so this button right here. If we have found the invoice that you want to apply the check to or cash to or whatever kind of money you've received to pay the dues amount, you're going to select this pay invoice button. It's going to bring you into this admin payment area. So obviously, you're not going to be doing a lot of credit cards this way. You're going to be doing more offline payments.
But hold on, we did discuss before that everyone's going to be able to pay all invoices on credit card except dues, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right. So everybody can pay anything else from the front end. That's just for member dues, and I have it set up so that only member dues are offline. Everything else will be online.
Okay. Good.
Yep. You'll just determine how you've received that payment. If it's a partial payment, you can always change the amount that you're paying, and that's going to create a partial payment in the system. And then you can throw in a reference number or a check number, the date you received it, and then you're just going to submit that offline payment. And at that time, the invoice is paid and you're done. Does that seem like a pretty easy process?
Yeah, that's not very difficult.
Okay, awesome.
I had sent you that lobbying language. I'm assuming we would set that up on the membership template. Do you remember that?
I remember seeing some. Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you're familiar with that from other associations. You have to have language on your membership invoices if you're a trade association or a lobbying group reflecting that a certain percentage of your membership dues are or aren't tax deductible because we're a lobbying group.
Yep.
You're familiar with that, right? So I sent you that.
I sure am.
A couple weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah, we can make sure that we throw that in here in the invoice templates, which we can go ahead and segue to. But before I do that, any questions about these invoices, how they're going to look? Okay.
No. I've set up invoices in QuickBooks before, and your process, I'm hoping, is slightly easier than QuickBooks.
I hope so.
I'm going to guess it is. I bet you it is. QuickBooks is brutal.
I've worked in QuickBooks. It's so funny. My mom is a small business owner, and I would run her QuickBooks for her when I was like 12 years old. And so I had a lot of experience in QuickBooks at a young age. And you're totally right. This is way easier. Plus, to me, the face of QuickBooks, like that whole web that they have, it's just confusing to me in general the way they have it set up. So, yeah, if you can tackle
it's funny.
that,
I can see. I can see what's on your open on your computer, but you can't see what's open on mine. QuickBooks is open on my computer right now, so it's just antiquated. It seems like some crazy old DOS-based program that they've failed to grasp how to run correctly. I don't know how to explain it. It's brutal.
Well, and it's funny because they really haven't. I mean, when I started working for MemberClicks and we were I was reintroduced to QuickBooks for training purposes, the same thing. I was like, this literally looks the exact same as when I was 12. Like, this is like, I haven't seen this in like, more than 15 years or whatever. And it's still like, it looks the same.
There's just something wrong with it. And so I took some QuickBooks training classes 2 summers ago, I think. I think today's my 3rd year anniversary with SIA. I'm pretty sure it is.
Oh,
so I think,
congratulations.
Woohoo! Yeah. Woohoo! So I think it was 2 summers ago I took some training, and they were really pushing to do the QuickBooks online. And 75% of the class was like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. That's worse than the regular QuickBooks. And that's pretty bad. So, you know what I took in college? Fortran and COBOL. Did you hear Fortran and yeah, because I just turned 50. So, you know, that was just kind of the beginning of like, did I want to be a computer programmer or not? And the answer was like, absolutely not. But those feeling. So I only wrote 1 term paper on a computer, my last one. That was the first time I ever had access to a computer, and it was at my first job.
How cool is that? That's kind of cool. Well, so y'all are using QuickBooks Desktop still, right?
Oh yeah, we've made the decision to keep it on desktop and not go online. Everybody talks about how bad the online version is.
I have had association after association come and tell me that exact same thing. In fact, most of them have gone from online back to desktop. And I was
it's bad.
I was screaming.
Yeah, it's really, really bad.
I was screaming at my dad. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs, and he has his own business as well. And he called me the other day, and I was like, "What are you up to?" And he's like, "I'm just trying to figure out this QuickBooks Online." I'm like, "No, please tell me you didn't do it."
The problem for us is that we don't have a server here in the office. Everything's cloud-based except QuickBooks, and it's really a pain in the ass, pardon my language, for us to share, for 3 of us to share 2 copies. So it's causing a little bit of a computer problem for us right now, because our outside accountant is using it, and we have to have 1 computer that's always on so everybody can access QuickBooks. So
that's a pain.
But the cloud version is just not good enough. Anyway, we digress as we always do.
Yeah, but okay, cool. Well, the great thing here is that you guys are on QuickBooks Desktop, which is to me going to make your lives a lot easier in making the 2 talk with each other. So that'll be good. All right, well let's jump.
Yeah, and honestly, your invoicing, the way I'm looking at this, for this payment management system, it kind of looks like payment management for dummies, and that's what we need, right? Isn't that what most groups need?
Absolutely.
That's a compliment. That's not an insult. That's a compliment.
Simplifying it as much as possible and being able to find what you need at the drop of a hat, and not having to feel like you're, searching and searching and searching is definitely what we were trying to accomplish with this. And yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty simple.
Yeah, and maybe some people will say it doesn't do enough, but I'm guessing it does enough for 98% of people. So.
Yeah, I haven't heard feedback that it doesn't do anything that somebody needs it to. So.
Well, that's good. Then we're good.
Hopefully. Awesome. So let's jump over to this invoice templates. I want to talk a little bit about what this is before we actually look at it. Okay. Invoice templates, to me, it's a little bit of a confusing name for this because it makes you think it's about how the invoice is going to look. It really is not about that. Invoice templates are additional notifications that we're going to send out to remind your members to pay their dues, or to pay their open invoice. So you sent me earlier
a document. You the language, right?
You sure did. Now, that language is specific to dues renewals. So it is only for dues renewals. So I like to think of dues renewals being in a separate bucket. Everything else that we do in the system, any other type of invoice that we're creating in the system, is kind of somewhere else. And so we need some notifications for those other types of invoices to tell people, hey, you've got an invoice that's been created for you. Hey, don't forget to pay your invoice. Hey, don't forget to pay your invoice. Okay, hey, we've received payment confirmation. Thanks for paying. So that's what we can accomplish through these invoice templates. I've created a default dues renewal invoice template. The reason why is because not only does this determine notifications that are going to go out for dues renewals, but it does also determine a net due date. So from the day that the invoice is due, when is it due, or is created, when is that invoice due? Typical is 30 days. And then you can also put footer information, which you've said you've got that, you've got some script that needs to go in here, which we can add in, or I can add that in for you since I have it. A lot of time remit payment to information. since people are going to be sending in payments, stuff like that can go in the footer information. So that's what that notes section was on the invoice that we looked at.
Okay.
And then I've made this, a lot of people ask me, well, what is this default template? What's that mean? So I'm going to show you in a second how you can create additional invoice templates to create notifications for things like events or maybe donations or maybe sponsorships or partnerships, whatever other type of invoices you create in your system, you're going to want a template for. But let's say on a form, so this is going to communicate with forms. Let's say that you forgot to choose an invoice template. We don't want an invoice to not be created because you forgot to choose an invoice template. So that's where this default comes into play. It's going to at least get the invoice created. Now, there aren't any notifications associated with it because, like I said, for dues renewals, these are coming out of that separate bucket. But at least an invoice has been created and it hasn't just stopped the invoicing process in its tracks. Did I explain that well? Did that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to go back to these invoice templates. So your kind of bit of homework is going to be to get in here and create invoice templates. So I'm going to select create an invoice template.
So and basically, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the invoice is for. You're going to have parameters set up so we don't have to remember to send out statements.
That's right.
So I did get what you were saying.
Perfect. You sure did. Yeah, this is basically preventing you from having to say, hey, here's your invoice for the event you just registered for. And then a month later, hey, you still haven't paid your invoice. Like, where's your money at? And then, once it's past due, hey, you still haven't, you're not having to chase down money. The system's doing it for you.
So since our dues are due, that is very tedious. Since our dues are due on the 15th of January each year, it would make sense to have, to have everything else due on the 15th, but that doesn't make any sense because I just invoice people when I invoice people. So
right.
Things will just be due they'll just be sent out 30 days after, right? Right. Never mind. I'm just talking offline here. I'm thinking things through.
That's good. No, I like your thought process because you're thinking through how these are going to work, and you are already getting how to apply these, and that's awesome. That tells me you have a good understanding. So, and this is a little bit of a tricky subject for most of the individuals I work with.
No, yeah, because I just set up a registration for an event we're having, and I had to change the language for after they purchase a ticket. And it was language from another event in December, and I almost didn't catch it. So that's actually what this is reminding me of.
Gotcha. And that is something, so I'll go ahead and point that out. Some of my associations use this very specifically. So they'll create invoice templates specific to the event, but you're exactly right. If you forget to choose something or if you forget to change something or whatever it is, now you've got language going out for the wrong event with the wrong invoice. So on the flip side of that is some associations will instead make very generic or general notifications that'll go out. So like instead of conference 2017, it's just something that'll house like all events. And then you can just say, thanks so much for, registering for our event. We can't wait to see you. Now, the cool thing about this is, so you'll come in here and if you want a notification to go out to let your member know that they have a new invoice created for them, I would turn on new invoice email, and then you'll need to actually edit the email. So you're going to need to add in some verbiage in here. The coolest thing to me is there's a merge data tool in here. So if we look at this merge data tool, there's stuff we can pull from their profile, but there's also stuff we can pay in regards to the invoice. So we can say, hey, you've got this invoice number, blah, 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 and it's going to pull it from whatever notification is going out for that invoice. It's going to pull that information into the notification. You owe a total amount of invoice total. This is due on amount or invoice due date and was created on invoice date or whatever it is. So if I select these, it's going to look kind of funky like this, but it's going to populate in when that notification actually goes out.
Cool.
So you'll just need to come in and
that's really
awesome. You'll just jump in here.
We're paying a monthly fee right now to a registration company. I'd like to get rid of that.
You're using their forms as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the forms training we'll get to in a little, not today, but I'll definitely make sure we spend some time in the forms, and hopefully you can feel like that's easier to use. And I would suggest using our forms. I mean, I'm biased because I think they're awesome, but I also work for MemberClicks. But in addition to that, it captures information from our forms. So you're able to search by who registered for the 2017 conference, who actually came, who no-showed. You'll be able to set different statuses like that for your events. You'll be able to keep all that historical data in your members' profiles, so you can access it, 10 years later to see who came to last year's conference, or 10 conference years ago. And it also does all the invoicing for you, connects that invoicing to the system, and then these notifications will go out chasing down that money, so you're not having to do it. So
why wouldn't we use your system?
You would. You absolutely would.
Okay.
Anybody that I've worked with anybody that I've worked with that uses a third-party form system, they come over to MemberClicks for forms. Some people are a little bit more resistant because change is scary, but it's worth it.
Oh God, no. No, I want to try to bring as many things into this as we can.
Cool. I'm excited about that forms training then. That'll be fun. So then basically you'll just come in here, turn on the notifications that you want to go out, and then you'll have to add the actual verbiage in here that you want to be sent out in that notification. Just as a heads up, if you don't add verbiage in here, it sends out a very spammy looking email that's basically like, here's your invoice, pay it. So make sure that you're adding.
So does QuickBooks. I edit every single invoice that I can in QuickBooks because they're so goobery. Even the subject matter is goobery.
Oh no. Well, yeah, you'll be able to. You have the ability to throw all of that in here, so none of it's going to be. If you put information in here, it'll look the way it's supposed to. It's just if you forget to throw verbiage in here, it looks pretty spammy.
Okay.
Cool. So I would tackle this by kind of making a list to yourself, what is MemberClicks going to be creating invoices for? Events, donations, whatever. Make a list, and then I would make invoice templates for each of those different things. Okay. Any questions?
Mm-mm. Cool.
I
like invoice templates. It's not what I thought it was. I think I thought it was what everybody else, but I'm going to guess that's what the invoice list is. Right?
Well, the invoice list is where we would see where all of those invoices are going to populate in at. So what are you looking for?
The invoice, what everybody thinks is the invoice templates.
Which is what decides what the invoice is going to look like? Yeah. So that's actually pulling really from invoice settings. So that's our third icon, which we're getting to anyway. So it's like you're scripted with me. No, you're perfect.
I am scripted with you. I could have been a nerd. I am a nerd. Don't get me wrong. I'm in khaki pants and boat shoes today. I could have been somebody who dove all into this for a living, but I just dipped my toe in it and ran away. But I like it. I think it's interesting.
It's interesting to me as well, and I've gotten to learn a lot about. Now, I am in no way close to being able to code or anything like that, but sometimes I like to pop in and see how all of that works and why why the system does what it does when it does it. I think that's really neat.
It's really cool how far we've come in 30, 40 years. I mean, I'm going back further than what most people even knew we had computers, but we did. I mean, we even had computers before 40 years, but I think it's all cool. I think it's cool that my 81-year-old mother has an iPhone and has had one for 10 years and she loves it. I don't have any friends who have parents that old who use an iPhone or an iPad or anything. Most of my friends' parents are freaked out by technology, and my mom's not.
Yeah, I think that's really, my grandparents recently got an iPhone, and I taught them how to FaceTime with me, and they just think it is the coolest thing ever in the whole world. But you're right. I mean,
it's fun when they embrace it. It's awesome.
especially since, when computers were kind of first introduced to them, it took up the size of a room. I mean, and now you can hold a computer in your hand. How cool is that? You're right. It is really neat.
How old are they, if I could ask?
Yeah. So my grandfather turned 74 day before yesterday.
So they're pretty young.
Yeah, they are pretty young. And it's so neat too, because they're young they're even young for being in their 70s. They're really, really active, and it's really cool.
Yeah, think about my mom. We need it going, but think how much the world's changed since my mom and your grandparents were born. Good gosh.
Well, and it's like, and you're so right, because there are some, like I have another set of grandparents, of course, and they're not like that. They are really timid and kind of scared by it. And it is cool to embrace it and embrace the changes. But then it just makes me think, like, where in the world are we going to be in another 30 years? Like, that's really weird to think about. It's bizarre.
My mom says the TV changed her life the most, even though she acknowledges the computers changed my life the most. She says it's TV for her.
Really? So. Why does she? Just because access to information, or?
Yeah, the biggest difference for her was the TV. So I don't know. I would have thought, really cool. The airplane, or I don't know, but no, I guess the airplane was flying before she was born, but you know what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's go.
All right. So invoice settings, this is going to be super easy peasy. This is another little piece of homework I'm going to assign. You'll just throw your logo in here. Okay. That's going to be the logo that shows up on the right-hand side of your invoice. Your organization information is just basically the address of your association and the name. So you're just going to throw that in here, and that's going to show up on the left-hand side of the invoice. So I mentioned when we were looking at member clicks, I'm going to go back just to point these out again. There's that logo. Yeah. There's that association information that's going to show up. So you're just going to throw these in here. Now, the invoice number, we can set this to start at any invoice number you want to. So if you want to start, start at number 1,000, 5,000, we can note that. My recommendation would be leaving it at 1. We may want to create some test invoices together. And it's really easy peasy to see that, like, invoice number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were test invoices. And then starting at invoice number 1,000 are actual invoices from your members. So that's just what I've seen. It makes it easier to point out which ones were test, which ones are real. So I would just kind of leave this at 1 until we're ready to fully launch. And then you can change that to whatever you want to for your members.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, awesome. So that's everything on invoice settings. Super easy peasy. Now, I do have your revenue accounts. I failed to add those in, but I can do that today. Adding revenue accounts is, I always joke and say it's the hardest thing in the system, because it's actually just totally the easiest. Later on down the road, I'm sure you guys are going to continue to add revenue accounts to QuickBooks, and you'll want those to match in member clicks. So if you ever need to add a revenue account, you're just going to dive into the revenue accounts icon, select add new revenue account, throw in that revenue account name if it's, for events. Description is optional. If it's for dues, you toggle on that it's for dues. If it's not for dues, you leave it toggled off. And then at that point, you just save it, and that's all you have to do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that our accountant gave those to me, and I gave them to you, but it seemed to be a very small list. So I'm guessing he's going to have to add more stuff. But
yeah, I remember looking at that, and it did seem smaller, but I've also had associations where they literally have dues, events, and that's it. So
well, maybe he classifies those. Maybe he classifies them in accounting. No, I do invoicing. Whatever, he can add to it if he needs to.
He totally can. And also, obviously, we only need income accounts, right? We don't need expense or any
right.
other
We're just looking at revenue.
So, right.
Yeah, I realize that, but I would have thought we would have a few more than what he gave you, but it's okay.
We'll take a look at it. Yeah, and it can always be changed. One thing that I do want to reiterate here is whenever you do add in a revenue account, it has to match QuickBooks exactly. So that's one of the pieces that talks when we do an import from MemberClicks to QuickBooks. Right. And if it doesn't recognize, and computers only do what we tell them to do. So if it doesn't recognize a revenue account exactly, it's going to either not allow you to do the import or it's going to create a duplicate revenue account. I've seen both happen, and that becomes a real pain. So,
okay. Yeah, no, I would assume that. So,
perfect.
I would assume it has to be very exact.
So then the last piece of our financials here is just our payment processor. So I've got Moolah in here created for the items that we're going to use other than dues renewals. Have you worked on that payment processor application with Hart at all?
No.
Okay. I'll follow up with her and get her to reach out so that you guys can get started on that.
Say that again?
Her name's Hart, H-A-R-T. And you'll see her email come through. Her name's Lauren Hartsfield, but she goes by Hart.
Okay.
She's our Moolah rep for the payment processor, and she'll get you set up and squared away.
Okay. But she works for a different company, or she works with your company?
She works with a different company, but she is in our office.
Okay.
That's something I like about Moolah so much, and that's one reason I always would recommend using, our preferred payment processor, because if anything ever happened, we've got somebody in our office and we can say, hey, what in the world's going on? This needs to be fixed. Whereas if you were with like authorize.net, we can't do anything about that. Our hands are tied. So
I'm guessing they're going to want to take a percentage of every credit card that's swiped?
So I think, you know what, you mentioned this to me already, because I think Moolah told you what percentage they take.
No, I don't think so.
You sent me an email. Maybe
not.
Did? Yeah, you sent me an email and you don't remember?
I don't remember talking about it now.
We'll get with Hart.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get with Hart and we'll get her to give you some additional information. What have you guys been using for your payment processing?
I use Stripe.
Oh. Do they have a payment processor fee?
It's very small. It's about 2%.
You're going to say you really like them?
I do really like them. I dumped PayPal as fast as humanly possible.
I've heard that a lot.
Oh my God. Talk about awful. But I do really like Stripe. I like Stripe. I have actually never had a problem with Stripe.
I've never heard of anybody mention Stripe before, so I'd be curious to do a little bit of research about them. But yeah, I've heard that about PayPal. I had one person who just fought with me, that they were mad because we didn't integrate with PayPal, and we were like so perplexed by it because we were like, we've never had anybody fight for PayPal so hard. But all right, any questions on any of these financial pieces? Are you there? Hello? Hey there, can you still hear me?
Adrian?
Hey, can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Now I can hear you. I couldn't hear you for about the last 2 minutes.
That's so bizarre. Well, I'm here. Okay. All right. So I was just saying, any questions on any of these financial pieces?
Nope.
All right. Let's keep rocking.
Okay.
So just to recap, we've looked at your home page. So if I wanted to go back to that home dashboard, excuse me, I'm just going to click this home icon, and it brings me right back here. If I wanted to look at account settings, which is where you can find your account number at, we can go under that settings and account settings. And then we've looked at all these different icons under the financial and invoices where you can make offline payments, you can add revenue accounts, you can create those invoice settings and invoice templates. And I'm going to send some links in my follow-up email to you today recapping on how to do those, just in case you get in here and you're like, whoa, I know she told me, but I don't know where to go. So there's just a couple other things I want to go over with you today to not overload you, but still give you enough so that you can get in the system and start playing around. So these search items up here in the top right-hand corner are really cool. If you're ever searching for a member, you can search by name, organization, or email. The second you type in 3 letters, it's automatically sifting through the database to find searches. So all you have to do is type in 3 letters to start seeing people that might be what you're looking for. Something else that you can do in here is use our profile list. So if I select profile list, this is actually going to bring me to a list of everybody in your database. It's also going to show you their member type, their expiration date, their email, organization, first name, last name. Now, obviously, seeing everybody as a whole is overwhelming. So you can use this advanced search button to search for people that you're looking for specifically. We can search by any attribute that you have in the system. So we talked about this a long, long time ago, but attributes are just things that are describing your members. We have 3 different types of attributes. We have those built-in attributes, and you'll see these all up here. Things like home address, email, organization information, like address information. What? Oh, I know what I did. Well, crud. Basically all of this information. You're also going to have custom attributes in here. Custom attributes are going to be those committees, groups that they're in, so you can search by those. I have it in the spreadsheet so that each of those custom attributes are applying to your members. So like if they were in multiple committees or groups, multiple checkboxes can be checked for that. And then down at the bottom, I also have system attributes, so you can search by expiration date, who the key contact is or who is a key contact, when the profile was created, all that kind of stuff. So you can really search by anything in the system. You can also search by more than one thing. So if you were looking for maybe all of your prospects and their profiles were all created in the last 90 days, maybe you want to send them an email and let them know that there's an upcoming conference or maybe there's a deal on membership dues, whatever. You can search by additional criteria, so not just one. Something else that you can do in here is search by form submissions. So those are those registrations that we talked about. So you can see who completed or who did not complete a submission of. I always say the best thing that you can use this for is saying that, you know, if you want to send out a reminder for people. Okay. There we go. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, I've been blabbing for a while and I wanted to make sure our phones didn't cut out again. So we can search who did not complete a submission of. If you have an upcoming conference and you know that you want to send out a reminder to people who haven't registered, you can search for just the people that haven't registered for that conference and send them a reminder email. That way people who did register aren't getting emails like, I did register, why are you sending me this? And then there's also a little bit of event management that you can do. So after the event comes and passes, you can go back into those registrations and mark whether they registered, never registered, canceled, attended, or no-showed. And so you'll be able to search by those different statuses by events as well. The last piece of all of this is some different statuses that your membership can have. So you know they can be active, graced. There's also lapsed, which they'll be lapsed after 31 days or 31 months of them being expired. You can also search by deceased members, so you can give members a deceased status. And you can search by deleted profiles. I think this is the coolest thing. If you start deleting profiles in the system, and then later they reach out to you and say, oh, I really did want to be, you know, in a member. I'm ready to start paying now. You don't have to get them to go all the way back through the membership process, gathering all their info again. You can just search for their profile. You can search for a deleted profile. It'll bring them up and you can restore them. So it's really like archiving versus deleting. Okay. Now, if you find that you're doing a search all of the time, something that I wanted to point out is you can set those different attributes and you can save the criteria. So if you're searching all the time by people that have expired in the last expiration date in the last 90 days, you can say like 90-day expire or something, and you can save that criteria. So what that's going to do is when you come into the system and you're ready to do that search, you can pop into the profile list. And now there's a drop down and there's that 90-day expire search that we created together a second ago. That is dynamic. So if, obviously 6 months from now, the people who were expiring have changed, whatever it is, you can always come back in here, select this 90-day expire search that you set up, and it's going to change depending on who at this time is expiring in the last 90 days. I don't know if that's a great example, but.
No, I got it.
Got it, okay. One other thing that I want to mention is how these profiles are organized. So if I dive into one of these, over here on the left-hand side, these are all built-in attributes, things like organization, email, phone number, physical address. The right-hand side are all those system attributes, expiration date, last renewal, join date, the member type, and groups. Now I want to talk for a second about how groups act in our system and the difference between groups and member types, because groups are going to come up a lot in the rest of our trainings moving forward. Basically, I've created all of your member types in the system. And when I did that, the system created a mirror image of that member type called a group. The reason those are two different things is because I can only be one member type at any given time, but I can be in multiple groups at any given time. So let's say that I'm an executive member, but I'm also on the board of directors. I would be the executive member type, but I could be the executive member group and the board of directors group. Basically, what those groups do is give permissions to your members. That's all groups are used for in the system. So if you have a board of directors and you need to share additional material with them, additional content, you can set permissions on that content so that only the people who are in the board of directors group can see it. So to everybody else, they don't even know that that content is there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that's
okay.
Where you put our working groups and stuff there, right?
So I did not put your working groups in there because I didn't think that it had to do as much with permissions as it did contacting them. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it has to do with
I mean, yeah, we're planning on using those working groups for sharing documents and all sorts of stuff.
So this is where it gets a little weird, because we have a third place in the system that can kind of deal with this, called committees. So we can make committees for each of those working groups, and that creates a safe, secure place for those individuals to share documents and exchange messages. So I guess my question is it really like, are you going to just make articles, like content pages on your website that you want them to have permission to, or would you prefer to have a safe place where they can share documents and exchange messages?
No, they're working on FCC filings, and I mean, there are a lot of lawyers involved. They need to have somewhere secure where they can share documents before they, say, upload something to the FCC for an official filing from the SIA.
Perfect. So we're going to create committees for those. We're going to talk more about that when we get to social community, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it as a custom attribute as well, so that you'll be able to also search by those people if you need to.
So, okay, that's fine. So then tell me, what groups did you create?
Nothing other than what your member types have as of right now.
So the person we're looking at, Will, with Chimeta, he would be in what group?
He is only in his member type group, associate member.
Okay, I got it.
So if So groups can also be used to give people permission on the admin side as well. So for example, your financial person. You may not want your financial person to be able to meddle in profiles or meddle in forms or meddle in content, but you want that person to have permission to view any of the financial stuff on the admin side. So what we would do to combat that is create an additional group in the system called treasurer. And maybe that treasurer isn't, or financials, and maybe that person's not a member. Maybe they're just an admin. We could make them a prospect profile technically, and then they would be in the prospect group, and then I would edit this and also add them then to the financial group. And that's going to give them an extra permissions in the back end of the system.
Well, you know, we've got non-members who are part of our working groups.
That's totally fine.
That's fine. So yeah, so you must confuse people about the groups, because you have confused me a little bit about why it exists.
It is. It's a confusing piece.
I'm not sure why, if we've got member types, you should be able to pull reports from member types. We're going to have committees. So I'm not exactly sure what the impetus behind groups is, but I'm sure I'll get there at some point.
Yeah, the most, and I'm going to point it out to you in our future trainings, the most, either it acts the same as member type, so it really just doesn't apply to you, it doesn't matter. For the associations that does use it, it's because 10 times out of 10 they have a board of directors, and they need to give permission to that board of directors to the back end where you are now, but they don't want them changing stuff. They just want them to be able to see it. So that's one of the settings that we can create for a group. That's most common.
Yeah, I mean, we have a board of directors, but I don't want them to have permission at this point at anything regarding the database, but okay.
Yeah. Now from back here on the back end, you can also see contact preferences. So how your members prefer to be contact preferences is not what that is. Contact preferences is if they want to receive additional emails about maybe some of the social community stuff going on in the system, they'll actually be able to set on the front end, I want to get emails on circles or different discussions going on. They can also unsubscribe. So every email we send out lawfully has to have something at the bottom that gives them the ability to unsubscribe from your emails. If they unsubscribe, no matter what, they're still going to receive dues renewal notifications and form confirmations. So they'll never be able to opt out of those. Really, the only thing I've seen is people accidentally unsubscribe from all your emails. They don't realize, they think it's maybe just that type of email. They don't realize it's all emails. So then they're probably going to call you up and say, hey, I'm not getting your emails. You're going to dive into their profile on the back end and you're going to say you accidentally unsubscribed, and you'll be able to resubscribe them.
Got it.
Message history, you'll be able to see here on the admin side any message that they've ever received from member clicks at any point in time. E-listing. I know, I do need to. I don't know where my charger is. Yep, you're right. Message history and e-list is going to be social community pieces. So we talked a little bit about committees a second ago. Committees, you'll be able to see what committees they're a part of. E-list, I'm gonna wait to explain that until we get to our social community training. Most of my associations don't tend to use e-list. Submissions, you'll be able to view all form submissions that have been submitted by this member to you guys. So you'll be able to see their submission history, and then invoices, you'll be able to view all invoices that have ever been created in the system for this individual as well.
Okay, so back up to the top a second, and where are we? Oh, we're in invoices? No.
Profile list.
Profile list, okay.
And then we would pick, and then we're inside an actual member's profile. So I just selected a member.
Got it.
We may go over like 5 minutes. Do you have like 5 minutes more of time?
Yes.
Cool. So one other thing that I wanted to mention, well, there's a couple other things I wanted to mention. See this big white bar here in the middle of my screen? So this is what creates that linked relationship between organizations and linked members. So right now I'm in a linked members profile. If I'm like, oh yeah, he's in a, Chimeta Corporation. I want to go look at Chimeta. We can dive into Kymeta's profile right from his profile. This is what the actual organization's profile looks like. One of the things that I think is most important is it shows us how many linked profiles they have. To view those linked profiles, there's a linked profiles button down here at the bottom. And I can access any of these linked members. It also shows, by clicking on their name, it'll take me into their profile. And I can also see who the key contact is. You can change the key contact right in this area if you ever need to.
Look how easy that is to do.
I love hearing that. It's also pretty easy to link and unlink. So if somebody leaves the company now, they'll have the ability to keep this updated on the front end. Once again, we're going to review what the front end to your members looks like on our social community training, which will be our last one. But you may have somebody that emails you and says, you know, so-and-so really needs to be unlinked because they got fired or whatever it is. You can unlink them. Now, if there is a new person that's been added to the company, there are two buttons up here at the top. These tend to create a little bit of confusion as to what the difference is between the two. Adding linked profiles. So an example of this would be Kymeta had Steve come to one of your events. Now, he's not an employee of Kymeta. He's just somebody's friend, or maybe somebody that they're looking at hiring, and they want him to come to your event to learn more about you. Well, next thing you know, you've turned around and Kymeta has told you, Steve actually has joined our company. He needs to be a linked member. Well, you already have a prospect profile created for Steve because he came to that event. And when he registered for the event, your system created a prospect profile for him. So you've already gathered a little bit of information on Steve. So you're just going to select add linked profile. You've already got a profile for him and you're just going to add him to this organization. That was a little bit of like an elaborate example, but did that make sense?
It did, but okay. Yes, it made sense.
So
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What happened when you unlinked Will because he's no longer with Kymeta? Is this that appropriate time to ask that question?
That's a great time. So if I unlink Will, he's still in your system. He still is technically, he's still going to be an associate member. He just doesn't belong to anyone.
But he shouldn't be an associate member if he doesn't work for an associate company anymore.
So then you would, it's a bit of a two-step process. Not only would you unlink him, but then you would also go into his profile and either change him to a prospect or just delete him altogether.
Delete him, could like delete.
Right, but remember, deleting in our system is technically like archiving. So if Will ever got rehired at Kymeta, you could always find him, restore him, and link him back.
So I couldn't just change him to a prospect rather than delete him?
You could change him to a prospect as well.
I hate deleting people. That's unless, you know, they're deleted from, you know, life.
Yeah, you can always go into Will's profile and change him to a prospect.
Poor Will. We're really beating up on him today.
So then the creating a linked profile would be like if somebody just said, hey, Steve's joining, and you're like, I've never heard Steve's name in my whole life. We've never even seen him. You don't have a profile created for him already, so you're actually having to start from scratch to create a profile for him.
Something.
Right, yeah.
Yes, that's why add and create are a little confusing. Got it.
It is. Yeah, the verbiage is a little. So if you've already got a profile for somebody, or maybe Steve left another company and he's coming to join this company, whatever it may be, you know, you've got his info. You just, basically, you're just giving him a company. You're giving him a parent to belong to, whereas creating, you're having to start from scratch. Okay. One other thing that I forgot to mention to you, and it's super important, so I can't believe I forgot it. Once you have the group of individuals that you are looking to search, so once you've got all of the people in a specific group that you want to do an action to, you'll be able to tag all of the members on all pages. Then you've got this actions drop-down button that's become available. This actions drop-down button can allow you to do all kinds of cool stuff. Starting in the left over here, you can contact. This is going to pull all 329 profiles or however many profiles that you've tagged into the contact center where you can then send them an email. We're going to look at this a million more times together, and I'll show you exactly what that contact center looks like on our next training. but just want you to know that that's how you're going to pull people into the contact center.
Can you do that one more time?
So once we've used our advanced search, once we've gotten the people that we want to take an action to, so I'm just using everybody right now, we've tagged all on all pages. I just untagged, but tagging all on all pages. Then there's my actions button that's available, and I can contact them. So if I select this, now I'm in my contact center. And this is where we'll be able to send emails out from, and we're going to look at this extensively together next time.
Okay.
Now let's say that these 329 people, we didn't want to contact them, we wanted to export them. We can select export. You'll name your export, and then you'll determine exactly what you want to export into your Excel document. So you can toggle all of this, but I also love this because sometimes there's so much extra noise that you didn't need. So you don't have to bring that into your Excel document and then format it. You can just select exactly what fields you're looking for and export it. Does that make sense? Awesome. We can also create an ad hoc invoice. I always use a silly example for this. Let's say you had a conference, you were selling t-shirts, and you had a bunch left over. The next meeting that you had, people said, I really wanted that t-shirt. Can I buy one? And maybe it turns out all 329 of your members wanted to buy a t-shirt. You can create an ad hoc.
You are one heck of a salesperson, Adrienne.
That's exactly right. I sold that
100% buying on a t-shirt, on a leftover t-shirt, by the way. Wow.
So you can.
You're in the wrong business.
I'm gonna have to tell them I need to be in sales.
Wow.
So you can create an ad hoc invoice that'll create, an invoice for, $25, whatever the amount is, and that'll apply to anybody that you've tagged. So really, it's just any type of miscellaneous invoice you'll need to create in the system. It's really easy to set these up. You just select your payment processor, select an invoice template. This is an invoice, not a credit memo. And then you'll put in the amount, the line item, and then you'll select a revenue account that money is going to filter into. You can add additional line items if you need to. Easy peasy?
Yeah.
Kind of.
So if we set up this is a side question. If we set up registration for a conference, Moolah would do that too? Okay.
Just some last things over here. You can mass undelete or delete. There's that groups word again, so you can add them to groups, remove from groups, change member types, or change statuses. So you can override statuses that the system gives your members. And I am going to stop there today. I would love to go ahead and set up our next time that we can talk so we can keep moving forward. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I mean, I think I need to start playing around. And when should we start involving other people?
On our trainings?
Yeah.
Whenever you want to. So like our next training will be on content. I'm going to send you credentials, like call-in credentials, and you can share those with as many people as you might feel would be helpful to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody should be participating.
Perfect. Do you want to get with?
I thought you just wanted to show me what you had, so that's why I didn't involve anybody in this call today. So.
Well, you can share the video, and if anybody's just really confused, I mean, I can always do the training again. That never bothers me, but we've got it all recorded, so I'll send this to you, and you can share it with your team.